Let's say 100. Yeah, let me. All right, let's try this and see how it goes. All right, Kaylee. Sorry about that.
All right, so sorry about that. Looking at my course right now, you can see that I have a folder structure in place, and I was just saying, you might remember, typically using this Add Materials button to add materials to your course, adding a folder, discussion, things like that. We now have some other options for how you can add materials on the fly. So the first thing you'll notice is that you can use this little caret on the left-hand side of your folder to open it up, to really show you what's housed inside of that folder. Another thing you might see as I'm scrolling around here is this green line that populates when I hover in between items. This means that I can add content in line. So now I can just click on the green line to add a new folder, add an assignment, and things like that without having to go into the folder, into the subfolder, and add materials from there. So hopefully that'll be a real time saver for you as you're building out your course content. In addition, I have the ability to drag and drop inside of my courses. So if I want to switch things around in here, instead of going to the gear and reordering, I can use this, I can just click on an item and move it around. You'll see that it opens up a space for me to drop it. And I'll also get a green banner on the bottom letting me know that this is automatically saving. So again, real time saver as you're adding materials and realizing that you may need to shuffle some things around. When you're adding materials like specifically folders, I can go to the Add Materials, Add Folder option. Maybe I'll use the green line and add a folder that way. New feature here is the ability to add dates for your folders. And if you decide to do that, you can give it a start date and then an end date. Maybe I'm going to have this particular folder run for the next 2 weeks. I can choose to make this available, meaning my students will be able to see this folder. I can also make it hidden. Maybe I'm going to publish it once the 10th rolls around and I'll be ready for them to see it. I can also set this up in advance where I'm going to make this available automatically after the 10th, or I can make it available during this whole entire date range. So it's only going to be visible from the 10th to the 21st. And if I make a folder like this with due dates and I hit create, oops, sorry, I have it hidden. Let me switch that. So my folder is going to be visible. I'm going to switch over to my calendar view quickly so you can see what it looks like. But now when I look at the calendar, I see the individual items that I have due, and I also see my folder runs for those 2 weeks. So that'll make it easy for your students when they're looking at their workload and knowing, which folders they need to be spending their time in a given week. One more option for materials here. If you've used the Add Materials and Add Link, you'll notice a new option when you're adding a link to your course. So let's say we're going to make a link. Maybe it'll be, I can now choose to have this link display inside of Schoology, which is going to be the new default, or I can have it open up in a brand new window. So that'll make it open inside of a new tab or new window. When I have something display in Schoology, it's going to run in an iframe. So your students will be able to stay in Schoology and view whichever website you've set up in this window. So let me go ahead and add this, and I'll show you what it looks like. So here's my CNN link. When I click on it, it's going to run in an iframe right here in Schoology. Right now, it's not opening for me. That's because I'm in Chrome, and I need to load the unsafe script. So if you're ever running into something like this, you're not seeing an image or a video you expected to see, make sure you go up to the browser and click on the load unsafe script option. It's just your browser protecting you. It's okay because you've set it up, you know, it's CNN. So I'm going to choose to load this unsafe script. And now CNN is going to open up for me right inside of this Schoology page. My students can click around and they don't need to leave Schoology. Any questions about those folder improvements? All right, so let me switch over, show you one in the grade book.
Go ahead, Pete.
Do students have to do the unsafe thing also? Will they be able to open it in their browser? Or do they have to go and...
No, they would have to use that unsafe just to make it load. What browser do you typically use?
Firefox and Chrome, but it really runs the gamut here.
Okay. Chrome is what we recommend. Have you seen that load unsafe script error showing up at all?
Yeah, well, not an error, but we've seen the little shield that you have to click to enable the unsafe script to run, just as you showed us.
Students will have to click that.
Yeah, yeah. And there is a little bit of a workaround. So we posted a help ticket to Schoology, Kaylee, a couple weeks ago about this issue. There's a little bit of a workaround. If a site uses HTTPS, if you add the S in place, it will actually load without having to go through that process. But not all sites use that that level of security. Wikipedia does, for example. So if you just add an S at the end of HTTPS, it will load without students being prompted to allow unsafe scripts. So anyway.
So Matt, maybe just a question on that. There are some kind of points just it has the HTTP and HTTPS, and both will take you to the same place.
Yeah.
Just recognize
You just use the one with the S.
Okay, just very good. Just type in the S there.
Yep, just type in the S. Thanks, Kaylee.
Thank you. Another new feature is inside of the gradebook. So now if I'm using if I'm looking at these options along the top of the page, I can toggle between grading periods, grading categories, things like that. I also have the ability to add materials on the fly from inside of my gradebook. So maybe I want to quickly add an assignment, add a discussion, something like that. I could also add a brand new grade column from here, so that way it's going to give me a column. Maybe I want to give a pop quiz in class, and I'm not going to assign it on Schoology. I just need the grade column to enter my grades. If I go ahead and create that, it's going to populate for me in my gradebook where I can go ahead and enter grades once I get those quizzes turned into me. You might have noticed a new feature called Mastery that's come out. This is a great one because it's going to show you how your students are interacting with a particular standard or learning outcome that you've added to a material. So Mastery it's pretty complicated, but in general, when you click on Mastery, you can get to it below the Gradebook tab on the left-hand side of your course. You can also toggle between your gradebook and Mastery. So Mastery is just going to show you the overall view of the standards or learning objectives that you have in your course and how well your students are meeting those standards. So before you even look at the grid, you'll need to go ahead and configure your Mastery settings. And this is great because you can choose how you want to view this grid. Do you want to see the achievement levels on a percentage-based scale, on a numeric scale, an A+ or minus scale? I'm just using a 4-point scale in this example, but you can easily switch it to look at percentages instead. You can set the achievement levels, so my students are going to meet mastery level when they score between, let's say 90% and 100%, and then they'll meet expectations between 65% and 90%, and then mastery, they'll get a green star next to their name when they have exceeded the expectations 1 time, 2 times, or 3 times. I'll choose 2 times in this case. You can also decide, do you want the overall learning objectives to be scored by the highest score or the average? So do you want to see the highest score on a particular alignment or just the average? So when I save my changes, you'll see my grid looks a little bit different because I've changed the scale that I'm using. When you put this on a numeric scale, then you'll see. So it's totally up to you for how you want to view this. My students that have achieved mastery get a green star next to their name, and then I can really easily see who has not quite hit that mark yet. Hovering over these standards or custom learning objectives, you can see how many of your students have achieved mastery, how many have met your expectations. So it's really going to give you a quick view of how your students are doing overall. And you can toggle between this view, which is your student achievement, and also the learning objectives themselves. So this is going to remind you of the standard itself, and it's going to show you where your students are falling, how many people you have on the high end, on the low end, your outliers. And then you can click on a particular student to see their overall view as well. So it takes some time in your course to get this real comprehensive view of mastery, because you'll have to have your materials aligned to standards, and you'll have to have multiple materials aligned to the same standard to really get a good view and sense of how your students are doing. You can see this bar along the top shows you the mastery progress. So the goal is to get this all the way to the right-hand side. I have a few here that I've had 0 students achieve mastery, so I know I really need to add some materials that are going to work on this particular standard. Questions about mastery?
No, I think we're good, Kaylee. I maybe touch upon how you align content, or if you haven't done so already, maybe you did that earlier on. But that would be help. Just a quick little, hey, how do you align an assignment to a certain standard?
Great question. So let's say you have a discussion or you're making an assignment and you want to make sure that it's aligned to Common Core, state standards. You'll see a target at the very bottom of the advanced options where you can align to learning objectives. When you click that target, you'll see a few different options. The first is to use learning outcomes. These can be found, these are pulled directly from your personal resources, group resources, and school resources. So learning objectives is the first option. Then you can choose from Common Core, find the grade level and subject. And you can see you can really drill down in here to get to the specific alignment. So that would be the second option, to choose from Common Core. We now have next generation science standards in Schoology, so those will be preloaded for you if you want to choose one of those standards. Maybe it's a science assignment. And you can choose from your state standards as well. So find your state and you can really drill it down by the subject matter and then the grade level as well. And once you have an item aligned to a standard, it'll be available, that standard will be available for you in Mastery. One other way to align content to standards is to change up the grading scale. So maybe instead of using a grading scale, I want to create a brand new rubric. So this is something I can choose under the scale and rubric option. I'll choose create new. You'll see I have the ability to add alignments here or criteria. Criteria would be like paragraphs, spelling, grammar, and you're going to assess students based on that particular criteria. You can use these X's to delete rows and these plus signs to expand them. So maybe you want to make this a really massive, comprehensive rubric. Maybe you just want to make it a little smaller where it's going to be a 12 points total. So the first option would be to create a criteria-based rubric. The second option would be to use alignments here. So I'll choose the alignment option. And again, you'll see that I can choose from my learning objectives. So maybe I'll pick a couple Common Core standards. And now you can see at the same time, my rubric is being built out based on these particular standards. Also, we're just so everyone's on the same page, we're changing the language, so everything that you see that says alignment is going to be switched to, say, learning objectives or custom learning objectives. Still working through that because I've been used to saying alignment, but if you see the language change, it means the same thing, we're just changing the words. I'm going to switch gears now and go over to our resources. So let me jump into my personal resources. You'll notice now that you have the ability to search from resources. So maybe I'm looking for something for my English course. I, right off the bat, can pick from my existing group resources, my personal resources, or from public resources. I can drill it down by subject, by the file format, by the grade level, or even the alignment. So now maybe you're looking at mastery, you know there's a standard that some of your students are kind of lagging on, and you want to come up with a good activity to be creative, to give them another opportunity to work on that alignment, to work on that standard, to boost their grade a little bit. Maybe you come in here in the resource search, you find that particular alignment, and you see what other teachers are doing with that same alignment in mind. So this is super, super helpful. Now gives you a much greater ability to search for resources within your own personal resources. You know, sometimes they get a little disorganized. It's hard to find exactly what you need. But you can also really drill into public resources to borrow what some all-star teachers are doing. So this is brand new as of last week, but I would definitely encourage you to come in here and play around, see if you can find some resources that would be helpful in your own course. If you find something that you really like, you can add it to your own course by using the gear icon and then choosing to copy to. And I can put it from here directly into my own resources and then from there push it to a course. We're working on the ability to go directly to a course from this search area, but again, it's brand new, so we've got to work out some kinks. Another new button that you'll see in this resource area is these resource apps. So if you haven't installed them yet, I would definitely recommend doing this. We have created integrations with Khan Academy, Google Drive, Evernote, and Dropbox. And now any of these resources are going to behave like Schoology resources would. So if there's something inside of Khan Academy that you like, you think would make a great addition to a course that you're teaching, maybe you're working on the Big Bang in your 5th grade science course. You can click on this title. It's going to show you the video. You can preview it here. It's going to play right here in Schoology, let you see what you think. Do you want to add this to your own course? Sure, it looks pretty interesting. Use this add button, which you've seen in public resources in the past. And now it's going to ask me where do I want to put it? Inside of one of my courses or inside of my resources. Maybe I just want to save it in my personal resources and I'll use it later. If I want to add it to a course, I can do that from here. Just know it's going to, by default, land in the files and links area of your materials index. So you'll have to go into that area of your materials index, find the video, and then associate it to the folder that you want it to be in. So this Khan Academy just gives you a lot of videos to make your courses dynamic. And you can always save it to your resources if you're not sure how or when you want to incorporate these videos. We also have an integration with Google Drive, which means that my Google Drive is going to show up here in Schoology. I can add resources from here, so a Google Doc, a spreadsheet, presentation, or drawing. I can also log out. So if you have a Google account for school and a personal one, you can always toggle between your accounts if you need to get to another document that might not be in this particular account. If you have something like this new document, I want it to be available in one of my courses, I'll just select the item and click select. It's going to import it from Drive and bring it into Schoology. And then again, I can decide to add it to a course or copy to my resources from here. And this is great also for your students. Let me switch gears and I'll show you Kelly's point of view. Kelly's a student in Mrs. Long's class. Kelly has an essay due. If she's going to submit this assignment, she can choose to upload from her computer. You know, maybe she's worked on this on her laptop and she wants to upload the file. She can create it from here using the text box. But now with this Google Drive integration, Kelly can go to her resources and then her resource apps and grab something from Google Drive as well. So she can submit directly from her Google Drive. And it'll automatically be imported and then submitted to her teacher. So the integrations look pretty similar for Evernote and Dropbox as well, where you have the option to import your notebook and then it'll behave just like a Schoology resource that you can move to your resources or course. So some teachers we're finding are using Google Drive more or Dropbox more, so this gives you the ability to kind of pick and choose. If you have all your materials housed in Google Drive, now they're all going to be housed in Schoology as well. So you don't have to worry about bringing items in. They're all going to be there for you. And if you haven't installed them yet, you can install them on your own, or your admin can install them on your behalf. You would just have to authorize and then sign into your account to fully access. And then the last one is question tracking, which is a new feature inside of question banks. So I'm inside of my resources looking at a question bank that I've created, and I now have the option to enable question tracking. And this one you'll want to be careful with, because if I enable question tracking, it means I can't make any more changes to this question. So if you're going to enable question tracking on a question bank, make sure that it's grammatically correct, it makes sense, and you're 100% confident in all of the questions. Once I enable question tracking, I'll see this little icon letting me know that it's enabled for this question bank. And then once I use this question, it's going to show me every time that it's used by a teacher and in which course it was used. So this is really powerful if you are developing materials in a shared group resource environment and you've perfected a question bank for math or for science. You have a lot of ninth grade teachers that want to use it. You can enable question tracking, and then eventually you'll be able to get statistics about submissions for each of those individual questions. And then you can always disable the question tracking if you need to.
Can I ask a question right now?
Yeah, Joe?
Maybe just backing up a little bit on the Google Drive. If someone has created a document and submitting that through the Google Drive that's linked to Schoology, does that go to a particular folder that I've assigned when they end up submitting that assignment, or does it end up being a Dropbox, or can I manipulate that where the submitted assignment goes?
Did you get that, Kaylee?
No, do you mind
Yeah, sure.
relaying
So,
it for me?
so basically, it's a question of from the teacher's point of view. It's going back. Is there anything else with quizzes that you would like to show us while we're at this interface?
No.
Okay, great. So this is a question about Google Drive and basically submissions for an assignment. Where do those submissions go? So from a teacher's perspective, where do those submissions go for an assignment? Students are uploading docs and files coming from Google Drive and so forth. How does Schoology help, bring some sanity to what could be a particularly unwieldy sort of experience?
Sure. So we just went through the process of Kelly submitting the assignment using her Google Drive. So when you click submit, you can choose from your resources and then select from your apps Google Drive and then grab the particular item that you want to submit. Now let's switch gears and look at that from Mrs. Long's perspective, the instructor in that course. So here's that same essay. Kelly's made a submission. I can open up her doc viewer, and then I'll see it populate right here. In this case, I should have attached something better than that new document, which was blank, but you'll see that they all will populate right here for you the same way another Schoology submission would.
And Joe, know too that if 20 other students posted or submitted a document, their images, their little thumbnail would show up at the bottom next to out to the right of Kelly's, and you'd just be able to click
Right
on
here.
each student's image to load their particular submission.
Okay.
Exactly. You could navigate from here using the thumbnails. You'll have arrows on the left and the right, so you can scroll from there. And you can also drop down from the student's name so you can see everybody in the same place. So it'll be pretty clear who you're looking at when you're going to grade these.
Follow-up question, Joe?
And it sounds like that the student could keep it in whatever folder they're making a portfolio of all their work for the class. It can still be in that same folder.
Exactly.
Just identifying where it's being uploaded.
Yep. There's nothing that would preclude them from using it or sticking it in another place for another purpose. Right, definitely. Great, thanks, Kaylee.
Sure.
Kaylee, I think we
And
have
then
about,
oh, sorry.
just to keep us on time here, I think, because we're going to have some faculty members share their Schoology pages and how they've been using Schoology over the past several months as well. So just to kind of keep us on the clock, I'd say maybe about 5 more minutes max, if that works for you.
Sure. I just have one more thing to show, and then you can be on your own. So if I click on my profile or anyone else's, or my name or anyone else's name in Schoology, it'll bring me to their profile. A few things that you can edit within your profile now are learner types. So you can mark if you are an auditory learner, a visual learner, or a hands-on learner. So that's a helpful tool for your students to add, once they know kind of the best way that they respond to materials. It's a good thing also for faculty members to add to their profiles so that you know when you're speaking with a colleague the best way that they learn as well.
Great. Yep, a question, Kaylee.
How can we,
Mhm.
I somehow added Google Drive under my resource apps, but nothing else shows up. Where do we pull them from?
I can take a look at that with you, yeah. There's a question about her Google Drive and where she can access content from, but I'll work with her on that individually.
Okay.
Kaylee, is there anything else that you can say about features and updates to the platform that might be coming down the road that won't get you in any trouble with your supervisor, or is there anything else? I know one thing we've always appreciated about Schoology is how we can go to the community forums, submit ideas for improving the platform, and that over time, your Schoology does a great job of integrating those ideas where and when possible. Is there anything sort of that's going to be released anytime soon that might be interesting to us?
You know what? I'll follow up with you on that. I know last week there was a big push for mastery and that question tracking feature and resource search. So almost everything went into that recently. So let me touch base with the team. I will shoot you an email and let you know what you can look forward to in the next couple of weeks.
That sounds great. Any final questions, Jan?
Yeah, is there a way to have a conversation with somebody rather than just printing something if you're interested in some particular feature?
So like chat type.
Like actually talking to that person on the phone, so to be able to talk to them about something that you would like to see in Schoology.
So the question is, in addition to online forums where you can submit ideas, is there a phone number that a teacher could call to talk to somebody about some feedback that they might have, or are there occasional live user group meetings where you take feedback from folks?
Matt, you have a dedicated phone number, so as an administrator, you have access to our support team. That feature request space is really the best place to add your voice to the conversation, and we really pay attention to the requests that are getting the most votes. So right now, specifically, it's the ability to lock down a browser or print tests and quizzes. So the more you can add your voice to those existing conversations, the more the developers will take a look. That's really the best advice I have for getting those requests heard.
Okay, that sounds great. And maybe you could just show us where folks
Definitely.
would go to find that community to submit feedback. Great.
You'll click on the downward-facing arrow next to your name, and then choose Help Center. You'll see the support contacts at your school who will have that dedicated phone number. And then to get to the feedback, the feature request space, you'll choose Ask a Question and Share Ideas. And you'll see a few different options here. The community Q&A, this is a big Q&A area where anyone with a question is welcome to post it. If you are a Schoology expert and have the answer, feel free to go ahead and work with that person to help them get their problem solved. And then here's the feature request space where we can view your requests, and also you have the opportunity to add your voice to these conversations. So you can sort by trending, votes. So right now, a lot of people want to see the ability to edit multiple instances of a type of material when it's copied to other courses. So if I change a discussion in my resources, it'll change everywhere that discussion is posted. Safe exam browser, things like that. You can post your own question or idea here, and you can also click on any of these items and vote it up, vote it down, add your own comments to these ongoing discussions.
Awesome, Kaylee. Well, Kaylee,
All
thanks
well,
so
thank
much
you
for.
so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time this afternoon. If we have any follow-up questions, I'll sort of summarize those on the behalf of this group and shoot them your way. But again, please pass along my thanks to Colleen, and again, thank you for your time today. And we'll look forward to connecting with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I will follow up with the next items on the roadmap for you, so you'll have a little teaser of what's coming next.
Cool. Thanks, Kaylee.
Sure. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.